Today, we're diving into a story of forbidden love, a secret marriage, and the dramatic collapse of a powerful kingdom. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the real, shocking story of how one couple's hidden romance brought an entire nation to its knees. Our story begins in 14th century Portugal, a kingdom ruled by the formidable King Afonso IV. King Afonso was a man who understood power, politics, and, most importantly, strategic alliances. He had a son, the crown prince, Pedro. Unlike any good medieval king, Afonso had big plans for his son's marriage. The bride-to-be was Constanza Manuel of Castile, a noblewoman from a neighboring, powerful kingdom. This marriage wasn't about love. It was a political masterstroke designed to secure peace and strengthen Portugal's position on the Iberian Peninsula. Everything was set. The alliance was forged, the wedding planned. What could possibly go wrong? Well, some finot rather. Someone did go wrong. When Constanza arrived in Portugal, she wasn't alone. She brought with her a retinue of ladies-in-waiting, and among them was a woman named Ins de Castro. Ins was a Galician noblewoman, famed for her stunning beauty, grace, and intelligence. De Cayet, Hiranek, for her long, elegant throat, and from the moment Prince Pedro laid eyes on her, the carefully constructed plans of his father, the king, began to unravel. It was, by all accounts, love at first sight, a dangerous, all-consuming passion ignited between Pedro and Ins. They couldn't stay away from each other. They would meet in secret, exchanging whispered promises and stolen glances right under the nose of the royal court and, more importantly, under the nose of Pedro's actual wife, Constanza. You can imagine the scandal this caused. The court was buzzing with rumors. The affair wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was a political liability. It insulted the powerful kingdom of Castile and undermined the very alliance the marriage was meant to create. King Afonso was furious. He tried everything to separate the lovers. He reprimanded his son. He admonished Ins, but their connection was too strong. Frustrated and desperate, the king took a drastic step. He banished Ins from the court, sending her back to a castle in Castile. Far away from his son, he hoped that distance would quench the flames of their affair, but he underestimated their devotion. Pedro and Ins continued their relationship through secret letters, their love only growing stronger with every mile that separated them. They were determined to be together, no matter the cost. Then, fate intervened. In 1345, after giving birth to her third child, Pedro's wife, Queen Constanza, died. For Pedro, this tragedy was also an opportunity. He was now a widower, free to marry whomever he chose. Or so he thought. He immediately defied his father and brought Ins back to Portugal. He didn't just bring her back to be his mistress. He installed her in a palace and treated her as his true wife, showering her and their children with titles and honors. They lived openly as a family, and together they had 4 children. 2, Pedro Ins, was his queen in all but name. But for King Afonso and the Portuguese nobility, this was an absolute nightmare. Ins de Castro wasn't just a former lady-in-waiting anymore. She was the mother of potential heirs to the throne. Her brothers, the powerful Castro clan from Galicia, were gaining influence at the Portuguese court. The nobles feared that if Pedro and Ins's sons were to inherit the throne, Portugal would essentially become a puppet state of Castile. The legitimate heir, Prince Ferdinand Pedro's son, with his first wife, Constanza, was being overshadowed. The stability of the entire kingdom was at stake. The king's counselors saw only one solution. They whispered poison in his ear, convincing him that Ins was a threat that had to be eliminated. They argued that for the good of Portugal, for the survival of the dynasty, Inicio de Castro must be. King Afonso, torn between his duty as a king and his feelings for his son, wrestled with the decision. But ultimately, the pleas of his advisors and the fear of civil war won out. He gave the order. In 1355, while Pedro was away on a hunting trip, 3 of the king's counselors, Parroco and Diogo Lopes Pacheco, rode to the palace where Ins was living with her children. They found her in the gardens. Realizing their intent, Ins begged for her life. She pleaded with them, holding her children in her arms, appealing to their sense as fathers and as men of God. She reminded them that she had done no wrong, that her only crime was falling in love. For a moment, it seemed her words had swayed them. But the king's order was absolute. There, in front of her terrified children, they struck her down. When Pedro returned and found his beloved Ins murdered, his grief turned into a white-hot rage. The love he felt for her was now matched only by his thirst for revenge. He declared open rebellion against his own father, king of it. For 2 years, Portugal was plunged into a devastating civil war. Father fought son, and the kingdom bled. The country was torn apart, its resources drained, and its people suffering. All because of a forbidden love and a brutal act of political assassination. A fragile peace was eventually negotiated, but the relationship between Pedro and his father was shattered forever. King Alfonso died shortly after, in 1357, a broken man who had sacrificed his family for his kingdom, only to see it nearly destroyed anyway. Now, King Pedro. I sat on the throne, and he had not forgotten. His first act as king was to seek justice, or rather, vengeance. He hunted down the assassins. 2 of them, Coelho and Goncalves, were found and extradited from Castile. What Pedro did to them has become the stuff of legend. In a public spectacle of horrifying brutality, he allegedly had their hearts ripped out, one from the chest, the other from the back while they were still alive, declaring that they who had broken his own heart did not deserve to have won. He then threw a feast while the executions were carried out. This act earned him 2 titles, Pedro the Just and Pedro the Cruel. But his revenge wasn't complete. He still needed to honor the woman he loved. So, Pedro did something that shocked the world and cemented his story in the annals of history forever. He announced that he had secretly married Ins years before she was killed. He produced witnesses who swore to the marriage, making her, posthumously, the lawful queen of Portugal. And then came the most macabre, legendary act of all. According to the story that has been passed down for centuries, Pedro had Ins's body exhumed from its grave. He had her corpse dressed in royal robes, adorned with jewels, and placed on the throne beside him. Then he commanded the entire nobility of Portugal, the very people who had scorned her, plotted against her, and stood by while she was murdered too, approached the throne one by one to bow before their dead queen and kiss her skeletal hand. This gruesome coronation was his ultimate act of defiance, a final, chilling tribute to his lost love and a terrifying message to his enemies. After the ceremony, he had 2 magnificent, matching marble tombs built. They were placed foot to foot, so that on Judgment Day, when they both rose from the dead, the first thing they would see would be each other. There, they rest to this day, a timeless monument to a love that was so powerful, it brought a kingdom to its knees, sparked a civil war, and created one of history's most haunting and unforgettable legends. Their story is a powerful reminder that history isn't just about battles and politics. It's about people, passion, and the often devastating consequences of their choices. The secret marriage of Pedro and Ins didn't just end a chapter for Portugal. It rewrote its entire history in blood and tears. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories from history. Let me know in the comments what you think about Pedro's actions. Was he a romantic hero or a vengeful tyrant? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious.